Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 283, being recorded on January 15th, 2014. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm a retro Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Malventano.
Jeremy's coming to us from the year 1999.
Yes, and Ryan, I have to ask you this.
Okay, go on.
How have you made it to 283 without strangling multiple people in your organization?
Because you are all located in remote areas. Because if you sat at the desk, that would surely have happened. And even Ken is too far away for me to really reach, like, while the show's going on and all that stuff.
Just throw the monkey at him.
Yeah, yeah, he's back there.
If you can dodge a wrench, try it.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. So we are recording this here where things are a little bit different. We changed up our hardware a little bit, trying to fix some stability issues. And as a result, we lost some PCI Express slots. And we're going to be showing, if you're watching the video version at least, we're going to be showing you the content in a bit different way than we normally would. But the good news is we're here, and we're not at CES anymore. And all that's over, except we've got a handful of little news posts we will go through to kind of finish up and round out the week. Did you guys have fun there? Jeremy, how much fun did you have at CES?
Sorry, muted. Well, to be honest, it was one of the most relaxing CESs I have ever experienced.
Yeah.
I didn't run laps around Las Vegas. I didn't get stuck in cab lines that never ended with Alan. I didn't sleep with Josh. You know, it was pretty relaxing.
Hey, that's my job. Don't be, don't be infringing on my turf.
Yeah, and also for those curious, maybe on the audio, Jeremy does look as retro as he sounds.
It's his turn.
We had a computer switch. This is not an internet issue necessarily. It's a computer hardware issue.
Downgrade.
Location adjustment that had to be made, and that is why his audio and video is a little bit below.
Due to excessive precipitation in my apartment.
It could have been flooding. It's possible that that's what happened. How about you, Alan? How did you come away from CS? Were you excited? Were you glad to be back, or did you miss snuggling with Josh in his underwear, or how'd all that work?
I walked a marathon. I know that much.
You mean at CES or when you got home?
No, at CES throughout that week.
Okay.
I walked
24 miles? 20,
Actually,
like 20,
it was more like 30
26?
something. But
26 miles is marathon.
I've never run one, quite obviously. So
Obviously.
it's, because obviously if I had, I'd have a sticker on my back that everybody would know immediately.
Oval sticker.
Or if I was in CrossFit,
Well, Ken did put a sticker there, but
it didn't say 26.2.
No.
No,
So,
it said,
yeah, I mean, it was
this is
cool.
not yogurt.
Lots of running around, lots of seeing stuff, lots of writing about stuff.
And Josh, your experiences hanging out with me and Ken
we
and
really
Alan?
didn't experience big cab lines. Did you notice that this year? I mean, we
didn't.
the one day they were going to have a big cab line, we just walked, and you were unhappy.
Yeah. It wasn't really
I tweaked my knee.
It wasn't so much a long cab line. It was a modest cab line with zero cabs coming. So it was going to take.
That's the one I ran into.
That's the same issue you had. Okay, so it seems to me that the cabs seem to move like a 4-year-old soccer match, where they all kind of follow one group, and then at the other hotels, people would just kind of would sit there, not really knowing how we're going to get there. So yeah, Josh and I walked 35 minutes from the MGM to the Caesar's Palace. I was not happy about it. Alan made the same walk, I think, the next day or 2 days later. So
I did.
I was kind of stoked because I think I lost 5 pounds
on that
while
walk?
I was there.
Oh,
not just on that walk, but overall. Because I'm too cheap to buy a cab by myself, and so I just walk.
Hey, whatever works, man. Whatever works.
Yeah.
So let's get into. There was still a little bit of stuff that happened this week in the post CES kind of doldrums that we're used to seeing. The first thing I want to mention, though, of course, is that we did record this a little bit earlier than we normally do, thanks to the fact that I'm getting on another plane tomorrow morning and wanted to go home and pack. So if you want to know when we go live, you can do that via email, electronic mail. If you go to pcper.com/subscribe, you'll get this fancy website that asks for your name and email address. You submit it. We send you a message that says, hey, we're getting ready to start live in 15 minutes or 40 minutes. Today we gave you a little bit more head start because it was a different time than normal. But we don't use it for anything else. We only spam you for us going live. So if you want to sign up for that, pcpro.com/live. No,
so
pcpro.com/subscribe. Sorry. Yes, Josh.
That's a good idea. Where are you going now?
I'm going to San Diego tomorrow.
For who?
For me. I'm going. So every Martin Luther King weekend, because some of the guys that go are teachers, so the extra day off helps. This is where I go hang out with guys from college, and we go drink beer from like, depending on the morning, 11 a.m. to like 2 a.m. and then repeat, right, for 3 days. So that's
they play strange drinking games and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went to Denver and they didn't invite me. But
we
that's
went
probably
to Denver and we didn't
reason.
invite you. Yeah. This time we're going to San Diego, and I guess that's it. That's all I got. I don't know anything else that's going to happen. We already found a bar that has heavy beer and retro arcade games.
Oh,
well, maybe that too, but that wasn't really on the website. You never know.
You'd be hitting the trifecta.
Yeah. Ooh, video games, beer, and girls. Paradise. So let's talk about some stuff. How about this question? Is now the right time to buy an SSD? I posit this question to you guys because...
It's always the right time to buy an STD.
It's always... You don't really have to pay... Well, I guess you can pay for those.
It's the investment that just keeps on giving.
Yeah. So here's what brought it up to my attention, or why I thought about this, was we got back from CES, and Alan makes the rounds with his storage fans, if you will, all the storage guys, all the companies there that we're used to talking to, and we talked with all of them, and what we didn't see was kind of, hey, next month there's going to be this new thing that's going to lower prices on solid state drives. It's going to push, demand in another direction and cause a lot of inventory to be dropped in there and lower prices. We didn't see anything that said, hey, there's going to be a huge performance increase, in this particular area. And so I came away thinking, it was like the most frequent question we get, at least on the show I do on the Twit network, This Week in Computer Hardware, is like, should I buy now or should I wait? And I am usually of the mindset of, you should probably buy now, because buying now is instant gratification. That's kind of the philosophy I follow. But even for people who like to wait, there's always a time when it becomes okay to purchase. And I kind of believe that prices on certain drives are at a point where they're really, really, really attractive. And the talks that Alan and I had with these different storage vendors didn't indicate that there was going to be a dramatic shift in any kind of SATA-based performance or cost metrics to really kind of say, hey, maybe you'd wait till February, or maybe you wait till March or something like that. Do you agree, Alan, or is that out of line?
No, it's pretty accurate. There was a big change that was sort of gaining traction that we first saw. Only one M.2 SSD out of all of CES last year. And it was like at a place I wasn't even expecting to see one, right? I went to Micron to go look at memory, and they showed me like an M.2 SSD, and that was like the first one we'd actually seen.
No. You saw that M.2, it's the Spearmint Rhino.
Oh, I did? Okay.
Yeah, and so that's totally unexpected to find one there, especially at that price.
Yeah. But this year, it was a little bit more pervasive. There were more vendors showing some form of an M.2 SSD. Now, that by itself, as everybody is making them now, they're still SATA. Now, the advantage to M.2 is they can make these drives in either format. So they can. So it's like a physical format shift of the interface, the actual connector of the drive, in order to allow for, like, in the future, faster PCIe-based controllers and stuff like that to go mainstream.
Gotcha.
But there were not a lot of people saying, here's M.2, and oh, look, it's PCIe, and it goes so much faster than SATA. That was not happening, right? And like you said, there wasn't a whole bunch of, we're going to drop our price another 25% or anything like that. So yeah, it was really just kind of like, okay, there's still SSDs, good, but it is. I don't know. I'm kind of a bad person. I'm biased as far as being judge on if it's time to upgrade to an SSD, because I've been saying that since we did like the X25M.
Sure, but I mean, like, if you look at let's say, look at the prices of some solid state drives in December, you know, the kind of the big buying season. There were two lines that really stood out. There were the Samsung 840 Evo series, and then there was the Crucial M500. Yeah, and both of those at the higher capacity drives were hitting 50-something cents per gigabyte, and that was incredibly attractive. And as we kind of expected, like right after Christmas, the prices kind of went back up, and they're just kind of down a little bit back in that area. For example, the Samsung 840 Evo, you can get the 250 gig drive for $169, 500 gig drive for $309, 750 for $409, and the 1 terabyte drive for $529. Obviously, larger capacity, your better cost per gigabyte there.
Do you know what I saw today?
I don't, I guess.
You really want to know?
I do, yeah.
And this is actually serial.
So serial, tell me.
So serial. The Kingston V300 240 gig drive was $119 on special today at Newegg.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
That's pretty good.
That's less than 50 cents.
It's weird because
I mean, very close.
Yeah.
Mine, but
yes. And again, like I was kind of more looking at, let's not look at these specific like sales for the day. But let's see, like these were normal prices on the Samsung 840 Evo now. Basically, they've been low for a while, and on the Crucial M500. It's interesting to me to look at some of these other lines of SSDs. For example, the 840 Pro, it's a little bit more expensive. You would kind of expect that based on its specifications. The Intel 530, that's Intel SandForce-based controller. It's okay. You can get it as low as 72 cents per gigabyte for the 180 version. Yeah. But if you start looking at these other ones, like the Corsair Neutron, GTX, the Vertex 450, and the Vector from OCZ, you know, like the 256 gig Vector was $1.15 per gigabyte, right? So you're talking more than twice as much as the Samsung Evo, the Neutron GTX. You know, it only got down to 83 cents per gigabyte for the 480 gig model. So it's interesting to see that Samsung, who I think at this point most people would have to consider the dominant SSD vendor in the market, willing to drop their prices and be like ultra competitive. Like they could probably still sell as many SSDs compared to the competition if they were selling at 20% higher, 25% higher prices. But they're either they want to totally destroy everybody else in the market, or they're just like, they're making enough margin that they're okay kind of saturating it with that Samsung, kind of top to bottom vertical integration, right, with the Evo part. It's an interesting little, and I guess Crucial is probably the same thing, right? That's probably their flash. I don't know what controller that is. Is that a SandForce controller as well, Alan?
No,
it's Crucial's controller.
It's Marvell.
Oh, okay. So it's not quite as vertically integrated, but
yeah, but they're probably getting it for pretty cheap because they've been sticking with that controller for a long time now.
Yeah, it's an interesting time. Like, so like the last thing I say in the article is, are we 100% sure this is the best time to buy a new solid state drive? I guess we can't say that we're 100%, but I think all of us on the team were kind of like, yeah. I mean, I think hard pressed to tell somebody not to right now.
It depends on just, well, okay. I think the biggest depender, or whatever you want to call it,
the biggest
for
depender,
that, yeah, the biggest depender, is if you don't have one. Like if you don't have a solid state drive, and you're not like there's of all the computers that you own and use and whatnot, if none of them have a solid state drive, and I'm gonna just point something out because there was a couple of comments on your article, and I was just kind of like, all I could do is just shake my head. So
well, that's life.
So if you see a comment about someone that says the only advantage is in boot time, I can almost guarantee you that person only sat down and watched that system boot, and that's all they did. They didn't actually sit at it and use it for more than 30 seconds because it doesn't matter.
Just think of all the apps they could have launched in that 30 seconds.
Yeah, really. It just doesn't matter how fast your hard drives are or how big the rate of them is or how fast they're spinning. I'm sorry, it's just not going to touch an SSD.
Yeah.
Like even a 3-generation-old SSD on any kind of random access.
I imagine there are a ton of people out there that have like 120 gig SSDs. that bought bought a while ago. They were $1.50, $2 a gig. They just wanted the speed, and now they're at the that's full, or they can't install as many games. They have to do a lot of swapping of applications and stuff. Now, if you buy that 250 gig drive or the 500 gig drive, you're going to have a lot better time, I think, kind of using it as your primary unit there. So
if you have one of the first or second gen SandForces or something like that, and granted it's still an SSD and it's still very quick, but when you go from that to something like an 840 Evo, you may actually be doubling your interface throughput, first of all, right? Because you probably were on SATA 3 back then if it was, if it's the point where you're potentially going to upgrade this thing. And then there were some other comments on the article about, longevity and people worrying about the 840 Evo, and it has TLC flash and it might not last that long. And the truth of that matter is, if you're using it for just your OS drive, you'd have to who was it that was doing the long-term
tech report? They're at half a petabyte at this point.
They're at 600 terabyte right now.
Yeah, you would basically have to fill the entire volume, the whole capacity of the drive. You'd have to write that much stuff to it, right? You have to do that every day, several times a day, in order to get it to the point where
seems reasonable.
It's
that 840 Evo drive has only lost 6 megs of flash space due to wear.
Yeah, and it's the significantly worst of the bunch.
Yeah.
Performance-wise, not a damn thing.
Right. So, I mean, it may be the worst of the bunch, but that's expected because it's TLC flash. That's fine. But you have to consider that the worst is an average person using that drive, just a regular, you're just using Windows and you're surfing the web and you're playing games even, and maybe even kind of doing heavy Steam game installs and stuff like that. It's going to take you 10, 15, 20 years to hit that on that drive. And that's what wears the flash out.
We'll all be dead by then anyway, so what's it matter? So there are some people in the comments, in the chat, saying hey, but there's this Intel information about new SSDs coming out. And I clearly did not say that we didn't talk to anybody about new SSDs coming out. What I did say is that there was nothing that people talked to us about that was going to address the lower cost SSDs. Right, so you're going to expect new performance,
I'll say this too.
PCIe stuff, all that, and higher capacities, but it's not going to be as cheap as what we're looking at now.
Yeah, the bulk of the drives that are going to come out this year are still going to be SATA, and drives like the 840 Evo are already pushing that interface as hard as you can really push it. You can only squeak maybe 10, 15% more out of that.
Yep.
Before it's just completely just done. It just cannot go faster. You have to switch to something else. So
maybe you can RAID SSDs.
Maybe
people do that too. But you can do that.
No, not you, Ryan. Not you.
No. Trust me. No, I'm not. No, not me.
People do that. People do that now.
Oh yeah.
It's not a new thing. I mean, and the Intel controller is awesome at scaling. For SSDs in a RAID, it's basically the IOPS basically just doubles every time you double the amount of SSDs you have plugged in. Yeah.
So if you want to go check out that article and kind of read some of our reasoning why, please do. And then there's a whole list of SSDs and their current pricing. I might do something where we maybe update those prices and cost per gigabyte on kind of a monthly basis or something, and kind of keep track of where it is. Maybe if we had a leaderboard.
Maybe. Hey, what SSD do you use in your primary machine there, Ryan? The one you work on, you type on. Edit photography.
His Lenovo?
On my Lenovo or on my desktop?
Desktop. Well, where do you do most of your work on?
Well, it's a pretty even split. I would say on my desktop, I'm using a 256 gig Vertex 4, probably. I think that's right. And then in this machine is a 240 gig Agility. OCZ Agility, I think.
Yeah, I've got the Agility 3 in my main machine, and it's been going strong.
Yeah, it's, I'm not saying it's the best choice right now, but at the time when I bought it, it was. So, I don't know.
Yeah, when I bought it at $300.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to ride this thing till it dies.
Yeah.
Which hopefully isn't tomorrow. So check that out if you want. Let's move on and talk about some other things. Steve posted a review of a StarTech USB 3.0 dual video laptop docking station, which is a fancy way of saying it's a docking station, but it's powered by USB 3. You get USB 3 ports coming off of it. You got Gigabit Ethernet, audio, VGA, HDMI, and DVI video coming out of it. I'm trying to think here. What was the... he goes to the video output performance here and what the resolution maximum was on this. VGA will do 2048 by 1152 because why not? Otherwise, you're limited to 1920 by 1200 on the DVI and 1920 by 1080 on the HDMI. But
you know, those guys have been talking to us for years and years. It's kind of nice to see that we actually reviewed something from them because they've been consistent with asking, hey, do you guys want to try this? No. How about this? No.
It's an interesting device. I mean, it's a little bit pricey. It's $125, but the idea is of these types of docking stations is, you know, you hook up your keyboard and mouse to it. You have maybe 2 monitors hooked up to it, maybe an external hard drive attached to the other USB 3.0 port, and you hook your laptop up to it when you get home, and boom, all that stuff kind of works. And then when you leave, you unplug one cable, you take it with you. And those types of docks have been around for a while. But the problem is a lot of them are very proprietary. You know, if you buy one for the ThinkPad series, it kind of will only work with the ThinkPad series. Dell has some of the proprietary ones as well. This one is meant to be kind of generic. It's meant to be cross-compatible with a lot of different, pretty much any system that has a USB 3.0 port, right? And now that we're talking about USB 3 instead of USB 2, we're talking the capability to handle a lot more bandwidth, whether that be for display outputs, storage performance, and you're not limited by looking for systems that actually have Thunderbolt and then buying a expensive Thunderbolt dock with a $50 Thunderbolt cable and, you know, that kind of crap. So,
yay, dock port.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. So, I mean, there's some other options there, but again, for $125, it's worth checking out. Go check out this review that Steve posted up just a couple of days ago. And now I think the feature discussion for the week will revolve around AMD's new APU launch.
I'm not going to say a word.
What? What?
I'm just going to zip it. There's nothing for me to talk about here.
Cool, great. Let's move on then.
Okay.
No, just stare there, overly attached.
Oh, yeah. So, AMD released Kaveri. It's not Kaveri, it's Kaveri, as I had to correct my spelling and pronunciation.
Oh, so Kaveri.
Yeah. Which is the first HSA-enabled APU. It's also the first GCN APU, right, Josh?
No. Second. Kabini.
Okay, yeah. I was thinking desktop APUs, I guess.
Yeah, you're correct there.
So,
well, unless you use Kabini on your desktop, which you can do. It's coming up socketed, you know.
Yeah. You could do that. Notice that when I brought a laptop for you for CES, I had the Kabini one out sitting on the table, and I went, nah, I'll bring this other one. So
you gave me the Ivy Bridge E.
I did.
That was very kind of you.
Yep. So when the very first day that we were out at CES, Josh and I went and we had our kind of tech day with AMD to talk about Kaveri. They gave us the rundown.
We skipped through the Cosmopolitan hand in hand.
Of course.
So exciting.
We got gelato. It was amazing.
We did, and that suite with the bathroom right.
Oh yeah,
with
the glass wall between the bed and the bathroom.
Between the shower as you lovingly lathered yourself up and.
Yeah.
Oh, was that the one Global Foundries had a couple of years back?
No. This was
not
more
quite
awkward.
that bad.
This was more awkward. It was a much smaller space.
But they did have a terrace for me to throw myself off of.
If necessary. It wasn't, obviously.
After the shower
scene.
scene.
It could have been.
Yes.
Oh, so they brought us down there. They talked about the architecture. They talked about the parts they were releasing. And I guess, Josh, if we had to give a short summary and then point people to the story to read more about it, what would you say are like the 2 or 3 takeaways from Kaveri, architecturally? And then we'll talk about performance and other stuff. Ready, go.
Okay, their 45 and 65 watt parts are pretty good, and they're comparable to the 95 watt parts from AMD from before this generation. Graphics, second to none. Steamroller, good enough.
Yeah.
28 nanometer a process that they're using. It packs the transistors in for being a 28 nanometer product.
This is their first 28 nanometer APU through Global Foundries.
Through Global Foundries, yes. Their second, Kaveri, of course, was TSMC 28 nanometer. You keep forgetting about that one.
No, I fixed it. Like I clarified. It just took a little bit.
But no, yeah, this is the first from Global Foundries. They worked with them quite a bit to really tailor the manufacturing node to give pretty good CPU performance. I mean, as you notice, even though 32 nanometer Richland was going from 4.1 to 4.4 gigahertz in turbo mode, this was 3.7 to 4.0 gigahertz. So you took a hit on the top end.
Yeah.
But Steamroller, it is a better architecture. You've got higher IPC. You've got, as you've seen in your benchmarks, multi-threaded performance gained a pretty big jump, and that's probably more towards the front end of each of the Steamroller modules. They're now dual decode. They can more adequately feed the execution units of the integer and floating point in each of these modules. But yeah, graphics and HSA were really the big push, because if we look at the benchmarks, CPU performance, just not an improvement. I mean, they're holding pretty steady, maybe a little bit higher, a little bit lower in some circumstances. I would say that graphics performance overall it's going to be higher. I mean, you've got a better memory controller. The onion garlic memory buses are beefier. The GCN modules are so much better than the VLIW4 units that were in Richland. That you would look in, say, Battlefield 4, Arkham City, Arkham Origins. All these things were significantly higher at even the 45 and 65 watt parts as compared to last generation's 100 watt parts. But is that correct, or am I reading?
No, you're right.
Yeah, and so this push, it seems, AMD did not hit one out of the park, but this is a big stepping stone for them because it's got all the HSA stuff. When you have software that actually addresses this and can work effectively and efficiently with it, you see these great increases in performance because everything's working together really, really nicely because of the shared memory space, common pointers, all the stuff that's included in HSA. And you have a much more robust and modern graphics engine in there. And so it can play games. It can do all kinds of stuff. But the software support is just not there in the majority of the applications that anybody uses.
Yeah.
So you're not getting a big jump up from last generation's parts, even though you're kind of paying more. Except, of course, if you run a lot of games on your APU and you don't want to buy a graphics card.
A discrete card, right. It was an interesting, so we went through the tech day and we listened to all this that they had to say, and I thought a lot of it was really interesting. We already kind of knew from the AMD developers conference that they had, that it had kind of leaked out that the performance was going to be lower than what we had expected over the last year or so. So that wasn't really a big surprise anymore. But I was surprised, was very surprised when I got home. We were at CES we were at that tech day on Sunday, and they said all the stuff is being shipped to your house, so it's there as soon as you get back from CES. And I said, great, when's it launching? And they said the Tuesday after CES. And I said, screw you guys, but whatever, we'll make it work. So I did all that testing and benchmarking, and Josh did some writing over the weekend. But I was really surprised when we got back that instead of sending us the flagship A107850K APU, which is a 95 watt or 100 watt, 95 watt part.
95, yeah.
At that point, what's it matter? A 95 watt part. They actually sent the A87600, which is a configurable 65 or 45 TDP APU. And I was angry and I was confused as to why they would do this, right? So they called me and we talked it through and they said, look, they were kind of like, they were pretty upfront. They said, look, at the high end, we didn't gain a whole lot. Because of the process technology, they weren't able to scale frequencies up at the 95 watt level, at the voltages necessary to scale up at those parts. But in the low parts of the voltage curve, they were actually able to scale frequency up pretty dramatically. And as a result, their 65 and 45 watt parts here are much faster than their 65 and 45 watt parts of last generation Richland or Trinity. And it actually allowed them to gain ground on even Intel Haswell, right? So the Core i3 4330 that we compared it to is still faster in CPU, single-threaded, and still multi-threaded applications for the most part, but it's a little bit closer than it has been in the past. Keep in mind that the 4330 is a dual-core hyper-threaded part, whereas the A87600 is a 2-module, 4-core part, I guess we'll call it. That seems reasonable, yes. Right? So in the CPU side of testing, it wasn't great. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. On the CPU or on the GPU side, right, we look at gaming performance. It was definitely better. We did Tomb Raider and BioShock Infinite and Skyrim, and it's clearly the best integrated graphics out there. A pretty good step over the 45 watt iterations of Richland, the 6700T or the 6500T, a big jump there, and much better than Haswell. And with a HD 4600 graphics. Same thing with Tomb Raider, same thing with everything else. And then when we did like our OpenCL based tests where we looked at PC Mark 8 or we looked at Basemark CL, it had advantages in those benchmarks as well, because these are tests that were specifically kind of optimized for OpenCL, which will take advantage of the GPU more so than the CPU still. And as a result, AMD was able to beat out Haswell in that kind of general performance benchmark. The other benchmarks, if you look just at video encoding on the CPU, if you look just at rendering on the CPU, if you look just at file compression on the CPU, it's going to lose. Like it's losing. And AMD obviously wants to push the hey, OpenCL is the future. We want to focus on the future. It also happens to be that that's where they have some advantage, so that makes sense why they would want us to focus on that. And so they wanted to tell the story of the lower end, lower wattage parts, which I get. But it's not really excusable to not send out what they have done over the last 13, 14 years of me working with them, is they always send out the flagship part, and if they have other stories they want to tell as well, they send out the other ones. And obviously the 7850K, well, yeah,
it's like the last generation of Richland. They sent me the 6800K, yeah, and then they sent me that 65 watt, I think it was the 6700K A10,
yeah,
and that lower wattage one outperformed the previous generation A10 5800K.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I see exactly where you're coming from. It's a little bit of a sea change.
Yeah, and if you read a lot of the other review sites, they have 7850Ks in their results. Most of them source them from other parties other than AMD, right? They either went to a motherboard manufacturer or something like that, which I would have done normally had I known more than 3 days, well, 1 day and 2 weekend days before that's what part we were getting. Obviously, they weren't kind of like going out and bragging about, hey, we're not going to send you a 7850K, so if you want to find someone somewhere else, you should start looking. And so the fact that I didn't get home till Friday from CES and actually open the box to look at it put us at a little bit of a disadvantage there. So, but I was told we were being sent to 7850K because I kind of accused them of trying to hide that part under the rug. And they said, oh, no, that's not the case. We just wanted to focus on this first. I said, great, send over the new part. We'll run it through our test. We'll do a different story on that, and we'll talk about it that way. So this is not the savior part. I think it's fair to say. It's a great APU. It's got great GPU performance. I wonder how, especially in a desktop environment, how many people are actually looking for APUs exclusively without discrete graphics.
I think it's going to be a very good selling OEM part. It is not going to be all that great selling in retail because people who typically shop retail is like, hey, I want this processor. They're going to look at it. Then they're going to say, yeah, I've looked up benchmarks. I'm not happy with it. But when people say a part, a machine that is $500 to $600 in price, and they can play all of their games that they want to, that's where it's going to be a win for AMD. Everybody bandies about casual gamer. And this is true. I mean, there are still people who play, kind of heavy-duty 3D games on APUs, and they don't know any better than to get a standalone graphics. They just like, hey, I want to buy, I got $500 on my credit card. I'm going to max it out, but I don't care because I want something that can play this game, and this will do it.
Yeah. The idea of a Steam machine comes up, right? A super small form factor device. I think it'll be interesting. So we didn't get to test dual graphics on this yet, but I've been promised that dual graphics will be fixed, like with the whole frame pacing issue that has affected all kinds of Crossfire for a long time now.
They built in one of the DMA engines,
so it's got
into
XDMA.
This APU, which
it just needs to be enabled in the driver, right? And it needs to work. So I'm hoping to be able to test that soon. And maybe this is an upgrade path option. Again, you add a low-cost R7 240, which I don't even know how much those cost. I can't even tell you.
It's like $80.
Yeah. I see them up there for $70, $80.
Even when I priced it on the leaderboard.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm hoping that will add to it, right? We'll see how much it scales, and we'll look at it again. But we'll also talk about this again when we actually get to 7850K in. So there's a lot more detail in our. Go ahead.
You're also going to have to talk about it when Thief comes out, so we can test out True Audio, and we can finally get something that runs Mantle to see just exactly what happens on an integrated GPU with Mantle.
Be nice to see that.
Really interesting.
Yeah, that's I think where you'll see the big improvement in gaming performance. Again, you have to find somebody who's willing to use that as their primary part for gaming.
And do you think that when Mantle for like BF4 is actually released, that we might see AMD more willing to send out the 7850? It's like, hey, look what you can do here.
Yeah,
everybody else is running at 20 to 25 frames per second. We're hitting 50.
The quote we got during the quote we got during the tech day was 45% faster, up to 45% faster in Battlefield 4 with Mantle. I think I was allowed to say that.
Yeah. No, that's totally out there.
And that's on an APU. That's not like on a discrete GPU. I think the difference is on a discrete GPU, like a high-end discrete GPU with a high-end processor, will be much lower. But AMD will see the most benefit on these kind of integrated graphics parts. So hopefully we'll see that very soon. All right, let's run through some of these news items here. Kind of a round out from CES, round up conclusionary stuff from CES. MSI previewed the R9 290X Lightning. We don't really have a whole lot of other details than that, other than it's big, it's huge, it's going to take up 3 slots in your case. Technically it's a 2-slot card, but the cooler obviously extends past that. My problem with these cards continues to be they're super over-engineered, they're superly awesomely designed, but they only like overclock at 50 megahertz out of the box.
But it has a yellow fan.
It does. It has a tiny yellow fan in the middle. Yeah. It has a tiny yellow fan in the middle still.
Yeah, it kind of stinks, right off the bat. But
I know people tweak these on their own. Like, I get it. I just to me, it shows more confidence in your product if you're willing to push it to 1200 megahertz. Have some guts. Say, look at this cooler we designed. Look at this PCB we designed. Look at the power delivery we designed. 1200 megahertz. Nobody can touch that.
Nobody.
Right.
Except, of course, with the problem that I had, which they clocked it to 1070. And with the, I've got it somewhere around here.
It's all right.
But it's the HD 7970.
Yeah.
Clocked 1070 worked fine at that after some tweaking and some BIOS changes, but it wouldn't overclock with means. So, maybe if you're lowering base clock expectations, Like, hey, I overclocked this 90 megahertz.
Yeah.
It's only 10 megahertz over what Asus gives us.
Yeah, I would rather have a higher out-of-box clock than have more headroom to play with, I guess. But I could see like it being a knock if it ships at 1180 and someone says, I could only overclock to 20 megahertz. What a piece of crap. It's like, well, actually, they took a more chance releasing it at a higher clock. I don't know. Sometimes the internet is dumb. But we'll move on.
You mean sometimes, Billy?
Sometimes.
Most.
We saw a true 8-core smartphone from ARM and Huawei. Huawei? Am I saying that? That sounds right?
Huawei.
No, I'm going to go with mine. Huawei. This is an octa-core A7 SoC.
Hey, I took that picture.
You did? God, it's amazing.
Well, you know what's amazing about that?
It's in focus?
No, you even have
that you got your camera back?
Exactly, because the pictures were on the camera and not downloaded.
Yeah, that's right. We thought we had lost all the pictures you took.
I was doing video with you, knocking flasks together.
Ye flasks.
Flasks. Bitdefender.
Mine's in my.
Yeah.
Mine's in my sock drawer when I really need it.
My camera on a table behind me.
You did.
Yeah, but anyway, we have nice pictures. Tell us about this cell phone.
Not much other than that. I mean, it's a MediaTek MT6592 SoC, 8 Cortex A7 cores. The interesting thing here is it's not a big little combination. It's not the big cores will run sometimes, the little cores will run sometimes. All of these are the same size. They will all have the capability to run at the same time. The SoC documentation I found rated it at up to 2 gigahertz, even though the screenshot you took, the picture you took of the phone only said 1.7. And it was a little disappointing to see it only had a 1280 by 720 resolution on that screen, considering that the MediaTek claims that this was like 4K high bitrate decoding, H.265 and VP9 playback. And obviously that's not awesome if you're running it on a 1280 by 720 screen. But I didn't really know anything about the price. This is not a phone that's going to be released in the US, so it was more of a
curiosity.
Yeah, proof point.
Now, this did come with antivirus water.
Oh, your flask, you mean?
And your flask as well.
Antivirus water, also known as cheap vodka.
Yes. Yeah. I think they were kind of lying when they said
at least they didn't fill it with antibacterial soap.
That's true. That would have been a lot more disappointing. It was the best giveaway at the PepCom event by far, though. They were never invited back again, Ken says. Gigabyte had an interesting little, they had a couple things. One is they announced a new brand, the Aorus brand, which is their gaming brand. So like everybody else in the world, they're going to make a keyboard and a mouse and a headset, USB and analog headset, because why not? But was maybe, well, not maybe, but was a lot more interesting was they had a laptop called the X7, which is kind of a play on the Razer gaming laptops, the MSI GS70 laptops. This is a thin gaming notebook, not super light, but 6.5 pounds or so, but less than an inch thick, powered by an Intel Haswell 4th Gen processor and 2 GeForce GTX 765M GPUs running an SLI.
Which is my question.
Okay.
How did they fit that in less than an inch thick? Well,
it's kind of a wide, I mean, it's a 17-inch screen, so it's a large footprint device. I mean, if you look at the sides...
The heat pipes running through the interior of that must be insane.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, to have two 765s far enough apart that they can actually still go. They're not the most impressive mobile GPU from NVIDIA, but still, this seems impressive to me.
It is. It was actually a really nice machine. Ken wants to point out that it has a VGA port, which is nice. It does have a pair of mSATA ports running RAID 0, and then it also has room for 2.5-inch standard spindle, terabyte hard drive or whatever in there. 2 USB 3, 2 USB 2, no, I'm sorry, 3 USB 3, HDMI, VGA, Ethernet, mini display port, and an SD card reader. It's got a lot of connectivity for a thin device. It will be, I wonder if it's already on there. Let me check. It was supposed to be on sale in the middle of January at Newegg. No, it's not on there. When I search Aorus, Aorus on Newegg. All I get is women's bathrobes. So go Newegg, I guess. But that's the Aorus X7. They said it should be around $1,500. So I asked them to send one in because I'd like to see kind of how it compares performance-wise with the 765s in SLI.
And so they laughed and laughed.
I said, nah, I don't think so.
No.
All right.
Look at those heat sinks. That looks sweet.
It looks okay. Like, it looks pretty cool. You know, I don't know.
I wouldn't want to work on it if it was broken, but it looks cool.
Also from Gigabyte, I'm sorry, Al or Ken, I'm moving the order of things. The BRIX Max was interesting. We already talked about the BRIX Pro. We talked about that while we were out there. The BRIX Max is an interesting play on that small form factor. It is a Haswell-based Android 2.5-inch NAS device. So, Alan, I'd like to see if you think there's anything useful in this. So it's a BRIX form factor. It holds 4 2.5-inch hard drives in it, and it runs Android. And they're saying it's like a media center NAS device for people to use, I guess.
It seems kind of small for a... Well, okay.
That's the
physically
point.
It's small, but like if you're going to have it in a media center, you're not so worried about it being tiny physically. And as a result, you can only fit so much storage in it. It's kind of like, I don't know.
You can put 8 terabytes in it, I guess?
Yeah, but how many HP... 4U racks have actually 2.5-inch hot swappable bays. There's a good portion of them.
They do, and they are, but those are like 15K RPM SAS drives.
Yeah, these aren't hot swap. Like, this is meant to be a consumer device. Also, did I remind you?
No, I'm just saying that 2.5-inch is not uncommon in storage.
No,
Sure. I mean, there's even Western Digital Reds in a 2.5-inch form factor if you want to go there. But
so then why are you unhappy about this, Alan?
Because it's
this is an advancement in storage.
2.5 inches.
It's this big. It's smaller than a bread box.
I've never seen a bread box in real life.
If you're gonna install it in a home theater or on a shelf in your house or something, just get a regular size NAS.
What? No, small.
But it's small.
Its total fluid capacity is only 1.2 liters.
To fit in my pocket one day. How are you going to get there if you just say, just make it big and throw it in your closet? Advancement, Alan. Open your mind.
So let's get past the size thing. What do you think about it running Android? Gigabyte demoed the BRIX Max, powering a handful of network devices and providing media content and backup storage for all sorts of other operating systems. There's a typo. I'm still not sure what kind of software is running on the Android OS to facilitate the NAS functionality, but the Max includes the ability to set users, partition different shares, locations, and more. Hopefully we'll get a sample so that Alan can be proven wrong yet again.
He's speechless.
Yeah, I don't.
All right. We'll move on. That's fine.
Well, that's why he's the storage editor. He has opinions on everything.
He's allowed to have
2.5 inches big, though.
He's he's allowed to have a different opinion. We'll just see. We'll see. Maybe it's super awesome. It had 4 lights, 1 for each hard drive, activity lights.
How sweet is that?
Think about it. You can have your BRIX Pro stacked on top of your BRIX Max with a BRIX projector on top of it. What else do you need? Gigabyte's got you covered.
Hans BRIX.
Oh, you do need Hans BRIX, yeah. Hans BRIX. AMD will be supported in SteamOS out of the box with the SteamOS public stable branch. It will include Catalyst 13.11, Beta 9.9. Not really much else to say about that other than it's not out yet, I guess. You think the new version of SteamOS stable came out? Okay, great, awesome. That's good news for AMD, right? I mean, that was kind of like everybody when they first built their Steam machines used NVIDIA because that was what they had been sending out, and NVIDIA had been bragging about it quite a bit. That's why we built using NVIDIA. If they can get the out-of-box experience, I know that's great, and we can maybe test it with Kaveri as well. Also, starting this week, Steam in-home streaming closed beta first wave begins. So this is the feature that I think makes SteamOS much more interesting than just Linux with big picture mode installed on it, and that is the capability to stream from your Windows PC to your Linux SteamOS machine in any room that you happen to be in. So games that aren't available on Linux, that you can't download and install locally, you should then be able to play remotely through streaming technology. Yes. So as Ken points out, this also means that you already have a computer that can already play those games in a different room. However, maybe you have an office that's full of stuff, like mine. It's full of garbage. You never want to clean
like cases.
Like cases. And I actually meant my office at home, but yeah, that's also the case. But it has a PC on there, and it has games that you want to play, but you install a SteamOS machine powered by a rebuilt Alienware X51 in your entertainment center, and you can play all those Windows games on it. Now, you don't need a PC that powerful. Yeah, you still need a PC that powerful because the PC is still rendering the game in the other room.
No, I'm saying you don't need the Alienware X51. You just need...
Great, then give me a BRIX Pro.
Okay.
Right? That's what I'm saying. So the functionality is still there.
But I think you want to store your games on the BRIX Max.
Right, obviously. I mean, duh. You just mount that as a network attached. Actually, I don't think you can install Steam to a network attached drive. We'll have to have our storage editor get both of these devices in and figure out a way to make it work.
I'm really not trying to make Alan mad. I mean, I was talking to him, and he flipped up his headphone because obviously he's mumbling under his breath that Josh Walrath doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right, let's get to these last little news bits. Gigabyte showed off the R9 290X and GTX 780 Ti WindForce enthusiast graphics cards. WindForce, which should indicate to you that they move a lot of air.
Just like me.
Yes, very accurate. 3 fans. The WindForce cooler design has been around for a little while. There's a little bit of adjustment for this particular release. It's the same cooler that's going to be on the 790 or the 290 that's going to be on the 780 Ti. The cooler is rated at 450 watts of dissipation, so hopefully we don't hit that level. And again, they have a very modest overclock. The core clock jumps from 1,000 to 1,040. But again, the hope is that we'll be able to overclock it further and then complain that they didn't overclock it further out of the box. But yeah. And then on the GTX 780 Ti, they have moved the base clock up to 1085 with the boost clock at 1150. So it's actually a little bit steeper of an increase there. It's a pretty impressive looking graphics card. Again, that was something they said should be available now-ish, and hopefully all the coin mining people won't buy it. Actually, it's for sale on Newegg today for $699.
So the coin people have gotten a hold of it already. Or Newegg's just saying.
Newegg just jacks up the price right away. Yeah. 290X WindForce, $699. 99, and then $579 for these plain old 290 WindForce. And let me see if they have the 780 WindForce. 780 Ti WindForce is $729. That's only $30 more than 290X. It's probably, relatively speaking, a better deal. Plus, you get $50 off Shield. So that's Gigabyte WindForce. BenQ announces NVIDIA G-Sync technology monitors, which I guess we don't really need to talk much more about. We talked about G-Sync quite a bit while we were at CES. Both this 24-inch and 27-inch display are 1080p, though. So that's 24-inch is not bad. 27-inch, that's pretty much a stretch.
But don't forget, it supports Resolution Eyes.
I'm sorry, what?
Resolution Eyes.
Yeah, please explain.
Apparently it makes your eyes less tired over long terms of gaming and just has one of the most awful PR names I've heard in a long time.
Resolution Eyes, EYES. I got it.
Yes.
Okay, not Resolution IZE. Oh, because that would have been more interesting, I thought. So G-Sync monitors, there were a lot of them announced. If you missed our discussion on G-Sync and AMD's FreeSync demo, you should go back and listen to podcast 2 or 3. I don't remember which one it was, or 4. You should listen to all of them, really. They showed up in your feed, but it's one of our CS podcasts. We have a pretty good debate about G-Sync versus FreeSync that you should take note of. VisionTek also had a custom R9 290. This was CryoVenom. It's just a 290 with a water block on it.
Cold poison. It's
the worst poison.
An acrylic water block.
It does look
but
cool.
That's the same.
At
it's
least
the
the top
same
is.
water block that was on that power color, except not the transparent top on the left-hand side.
I like the transparent top.
It does look nice.
But except unless you have a case that lets you show that, you never...
Well, the best part about the transparent block is if your heatsink and you have multiple metals in your water circuit, that you'll be able to see corrosion.
Is that good? I guess you can stop
Ask Corsair how good it would be
to see
be able
that
to see
beforehand.
corrosion
Yeah.
in their water blocks.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There was one comment on this news post that says, please send me information on this new card. Yeah, I'll get right on it, Garth, I guess. Send it right over. Let's see. The last little bit from CES. Intel, so we didn't really cover what the Intel keynote had, and they had one thing that was kind of cool. They kind of did a lot of Quark stuff, which is their super duper duper tiny chip that they announced at IDF in September. And they announced the Edison, which is a full PC, dual core PC in an SD card form factor. Scroll down a little bit there. There you go.
That's very small.
The hope is this device will power wearable computing and make other devices smarter. It's based on 22 nanometer silicon and it includes Wi-Fi. One use case they presented was a bottle warmer which warms the milk before you even get your child.
That's horrific. Why spend that much money on tech for a stinking bottle warmer when you just pick up the bottle, put it on your wrist, it's like, that's warm enough.
I love the idea.
Just balance it on the 290X for a while. It'll warm up just nice.
Yeah.
I love the idea of a computer in this form factor that, like, devices will have just a slot where, like, say you have a phone that has an SD card slot, and these kind of devices get powerful enough that you got a 5-inch screen on your phone, and you want to upgrade the hardware in it or something, that you could like pop out this little module and pop in another module, or you have that on, you know, multiple devices throughout your house, right? Or you have all of your information and compute power on this, and you say, well, I want to transfer it into my tablet, and you can just simply remove it rather than have like the pad phone type docking thing. You actually take the compute capability and memory capability out of the device. You can put it into another one. I don't know how realistic that is in the near term, but I think it sounds cool. Alan, what would you do with a device the size of Quark? And don't go there.
What?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You could put a web server in your pocket.
You're talking to a guy who has a full laptop sitting next to his home theater system to be the home theater PC.
Right, but now you could use Edison and plug it into your receiver, and then it has all the capabilities, right, of that thing.
If it's cheap enough, then yeah, I'll consider it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a far, it's not a far future, but a future thing.
I love the fact that it and the the MD.2 SSDs are just so tiny.
Tiny things are cool until you lose
Right,
them.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do with them.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think this is pretty neat. Obviously, this is not new to like people who are in the Atom or the ARM. Thank you, the ARM ecosystem, right? Like there are watches, there are all kinds of devices, Fitbits. They're all using ARM SoC. Like they all have small technology in them. They all have, some of them have Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all the other kind of garbage too. So it's just, you know, Intel's getting in there. I don't know how realistic this is and any kind of near-term thing, but hey, if Intel knows how to do anything, it's how to demo.
Do we know if it's x86 or x64?
Quark is x86.
Okay, so no huge jump over ARM right now.
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to remember back. I don't know if it had 64-bit support or if they even mentioned it one way or the other. Finally, Zotac showed off a spherical small form factor PC that's spherical except in the back where it's nice and square. But look at those ports, guys. Look at those ports. USB out the butt because it's the back of it. Do you get it?
I don't get it. You know, if they'd have centered that better, and you could have called it the USB 3 crack, I would have understood it, but I don't get it now.
It's a Core i3 4010U, which I've never heard of that part before. Dual-core processor clocked at 1.7, up to 16 gigs through SODIMM memory slots, single 2.5-inch hard drive, 802.11 AC, 1 M SATA slot, and Bluetooth 4.0. This is the ZBox 01520. God, that's amazing naming. 01520. 01520. That's it. That's all I got. What do you guys think?
I had speakers that looked exactly like that.
I think we
10,
all
15
did.
years ago.
I think we all did. Any other news items that we missed that you guys think need to be brought up, or we can get into some picks that I don't have one of?
You have no peak?
I have no peak. I'll find something. Just anything else you guys want to talk about? No.
Ryan is stalling as Ken scrambles around the studio.
No, Ken's not doing jack.
Oh.
We are so surprised.
Nope, I've got one. I've got it.
Is it CES swag?
Nope. All right, here's my pick. You guys ready?
No.
It's a half disassembled case. So this is the
Were you allowed to show that yet?
Yeah. This is the Xigmatek Nebula. This is a Mini-ITX form factor case that Xigmatek is releasing. This is what AMD sent our APU build in.
And so, of course, you tore it all apart and took everything out. And you ruined the build.
Absolutely. But to be fair, I did all my testing in this system, and I will say that it's a really neat case. So it'll fit a full-size power supply, full-size graphics card, 2-slot. It's not a very small Mini-ITX case, but that's okay. It makes it a little bit easier to work in. This silver pedestal on the bottom comes off, and the motherboard actually mounts like that. And I would love to have seen them cut a CPU hole in the bottom of the case so that I could simply remove the pedestal and then change the heatsink out without having to take the whole motherboard out. Because taking the whole motherboard out required removing the power supply, disconnecting all the cables, and that kind of stuff. So that would be their improvement there. But if you look at the video we did of the Kaveri APU, you'll see it in its fully built form. It's got the sides of it just kind of snap on, like they just kind of got clips that they snap on, but it doesn't feel cheap at all. It's got this sweet orange light in the corner. I don't know why, but there you go. I think this comes out this month or something like that. AMD was very proud of the fact that Xigmatek wanted to donate some cases that had not yet actually been released, and it's a cool case. It's a cool case. We just have we have a few Mini-ITX cases here at the office now. Like, that's the thing now. So it'll be interesting to see how all that pans out in terms of, I don't know how much this is going to cost. Yeah, we've got all kinds of small cases that we're going to talk about very soon. That's my pick. Yay! See you guys. No faith. Jeremy, what do you got?
Apparently a bad internet connection. Hopefully it's not too bad. But I picked up a triple monitor stand for Christmas. Or, well, somebody bought it for me from Amer Networks. And I'm actually really impressed with this thing. When I picked it up, it was only about $140, so the discount's been dropped a little bit. But on the other hand, it has a significant weight to it, handles 3 24-inch monitors without a problem. I can put them in landscape mode for shooters and portrait modes for Civ and other strategy games.
Yep. Essentially
quicker than I can convince the Catalyst driver to switch my Eyefinity from landscape to portrait. So I'm quite happy with this thing and would happily recommend it for anyone who wants a triple monitor display because, frankly, it clears up a lot of desk space, a lot easier to perfectly level out, and so much easier to switch from portrait to landscape. And it doesn't cost $380 or $400 like some of the EVGA ones do.
Yeah, VESA mounts and like TV mounts for walls are like usually ridiculously overpriced for what they are.
Oh, I know.
Pieces of metal that bolt to your wall. So, good pick.
But yeah, if you can grab this for $150 or so, totally do it.
Josh, what about you?
Me?
You.
Why would I choose anything? I hate technology. All I do would just say, buy this beer and enjoy.
I have a giant Panda Express cup.
You do have a giant. I've got a smaller Sam Adams
Tell me about your monitor.
glass. Okay, I was thinking about nice IPSs, and HP has a 25-incher. It's 1080p, so yeah, the pixels are a little bigger, but it's only $179, and you can look around, and there's a special for $149 on the internet. But anyway, that's dirt cheap for a panel of this quality. It's nice. It's got a small bezel around, well, most sides except for the bottom. Bottom kind of sucks, but what can you do?
You can cut it off with a sawzall.
You could cut it off with a sawzall. I won't say that it'll actually work after that, but you could do that. Yeah, it's cheap, and it's a solid monitor, and it looks nice. And you can get 3 of them.
And it looks nice.
And it looks nice and it's cheap.
All right, Alan.
These are things that I think about excessively while in Vegas.
Excessively?
Excessively.
Excessively.
Did I ever talk much on our walks? No.
No.
Usually when we were walking, Josh was 3 full steps ahead of me.
And I was picking up every card handed to me.
Stuffing them into his pockets. I'll say
yes,
these
for later.
It's like
Who
a
is
stack
the
of
best value?
Girls, direct
cards?
to you in 20 minutes.
for,
Impressive
you know.
anywhere in Vegas in 20
Yeah. All right, Alan, your turn.
So, have you seen these Sony action cam things?
No.
You haven't?
Nope.
But you have GoPros. at
I
the
do.
office.
Yep.
So imagine a GoPro
I'm
that
doing
was that form factor.
it. Turn it profile. There you go. Okay. All right. I'm imagining it. Okay. Yeah, I have seen that before.
So pretty small, like head-on kind of form factor there,
Sure.
right?
You're saying it's
all
more
the specs-
aerodynamic.
Yeah, more aerodynamic, right?
Looks
Or
like a
if you
submarine.
were doing the skiing thing or whatever, like I think they kind of realized that the GoPro having a flat thing sitting on top of your head, like a little wall of stuff while you're doing
Yeah.
whatever.
So can
like
you go
biking.
through security at the NSA with this product?
Probably not.
Okay,
Well, I don't know.
never mind
It
that.
might kind of camouflage though if you have like a little headband. Thing
Yeah,
that's
just put it,
like
tape it to the side of your hat.
yeah. Well, they actually have like a headband mount that's like an elastic band thing that you put on. It's
It's
kinda,
just my Bluetooth.
Yeah, don't mind me.
Yeah, it's you just hang it on your ear. So the specs of this guy were a little bit behind, like probably the mid to high end GoPro stuff.
Yeah.
But then at CES they just launched a brand new one. So the new one does like 240 frames per second at 720p, and like it doesn't do 4K like the crazy high end GoPro Super Black Hero
Yep, we got one of those.
5 edition whatever.
4K,
thing.
15 frames per second.
Yeah. But-
Also usable as a podcast webcam.
But it does 60 frames per second at 1080p, which is, nothing to sneeze at really. And it does really high bitrate stuff too. So it does like, I think 50 megabit per second.
Is it like super cheap?
It's $300.
It's Sony.
I think the
So
GoPro
this-
is $399 for the black.
Well, so here's the thing. The new model, okay, so this model is the 30V, which is the one that was current until like CES, basically.
How many
The-
extreme sports have you done with it?
I didn't have a chance to yet because I need to get a mount.
Have you met his fiance?
Extreme!
But and it was a Christmas present, and then I came to CES, so I've been busy with you
I
guys.
see. Well, I expect many extreme
Because there was nothing to
sports
film
videos.
at CES.
No,
Is
I'm
that
just gonna
what you
do
were
car stuff
wearing
with
when
it.
you went to sleep at night with me in the same bed?
Just waiting to see if something would
Why?
happen.
Why exactly did I wake up with a headache in the morning?
It was actually he was actually wearing it more as a security device, for if he needed
Detect
some illegal
movement.
claim.
Detect
yeah.
movement.
So it comes with this case thing. You can
Okay.
stick it in.
It looks like a
Right.
submarine. Yep.
Kind of like the GoPro cases, but sideways, right? Cool thing about the new model though is, well, it's okay. So the new model is white, which is whatever. They just changed the color. But it does the 240 frames per second, whereas this one does 120. And the new one has Zeiss optics on it.
Oh man, Carl
Zeiss.
still getting those licensing fees, man.
Still doing the Zeisses, yeah.
Everybody's lenses have surpassed them, but
else.
Get that licensing dollar.
This is kind of spiffy. It's got a like standard camera mount on the bottom. You have to have it in the shell to do that, but I don't know. Seems like a cool little.
They're neat, like.
And it's got a like a phone app to point.
Yeah.
Wherever you want to point it.
Because it doesn't have a display on it, just like the GoPro, right?
Yeah. They do make a display. It's like $100, but it's like it literally turns it into like a little mini camcorder. It's like a little fold.
The GoPro one attaches to the back. I had fun taking my GoPro and throwing it up in the air at 4K.
Yeah, I saw
having
that.
it land in the beach.
How much does it weigh, Al?
People look at you weird when you do that.
How much does it weigh, Al?
How much does this one weigh? I don't have a point of comparison like versus the GoPro.
Like, is it theoretically something you could strap onto a quadricopter?
It's very light. I mean, it has like really. There's
Brian,
almost nothing
people
to
on
this
the
thing.
beach were not looking at you throwing the GoPro. They were just looking at you funny.
It's probably similar to a GoPro in weight, I would imagine. What was that?
Nothing.
It was. I'm hearing from the experts. Yes, it's similar in weight to the GoPro.
It's lower in weight than the GoPro?
Similar in weight.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably very close.
Yeah.
But,
does it have
it is a little
HDMI
bit too heavy
output
for a
on it?
quadcopter, but still, that'd be fun.
Yes, it has HDMI. There is a little. Actually, it has HDMI and mic in on the bottom.
Cool.
Oh, HDMI.
It's got pretty, cool stuff, and it's got like there's an extra port there, but that's for that external display.
Is that clip held together by Scotch tape? Because it's Sony quality.
No, it's not Scotch tape. It's pretty good. Hey, you got your Sony camera back, Josh. You shouldn't be.
Yeah,
I
no
can't
bitching.
complain.
All right, that's going to round up the show for us, guys. Thank you for joining us. If you didn't get to the podcast in time, it's because you didn't sign up at pcper.com/subscribe. So we send you an email when we go live and you lose. The URL where you can watch us live is pcper.com/live. If you want to find all the episodes of the podcast, the links to the RSS, the download files, the YouTube channels, all that kind of crap, you can find that at pcper.com/podcast. Thank you guys for joining us in the chat room. Thank you guys for joining me an hour earlier so we could finish pretty well. I guess we finished earlier than we normally would for sure. And I guess that's it. Be sure to check pcper.com for all kinds of awesome writing and pictures and videos of technology, of hardware.
Technology.
$5.99.
$5.99. Thank you. Thank you.
Nobody's clapping, sir. It's okay. So we'll see you next week, guys. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Alan Malventano.
That was totally out of sync on that last little bit there, Alan. It must be your crappy internet connection. Bye, guys.
Steve's using